and welcome to the Full 10 Yards Betting Podcast. We are back for week 2 of the NFL season. We had a decent start last week. Oh, some of us did. This week I'm joined with the full group. You can see if you're watching us on YouTube or on the Twitter feed. We have Callum coming in from Dallas. He's a little distracted by the United game, but I'm sure we'll keep his attention for 45 minutes. We've got Liam, who's looking forward to the big match tonight. Probably the best Thursday night game of the season. Nice one to get it underway. And Jack is joining us this week. He's managed to find some time for us. Let's review last week. First of all, me and Callum, we'll get off with the losers first. The Eagles did not cover the spread. They let the Lions back in it in the fourth quarter, which kiboshed my -4 on the Eagles, which was a little bit irritating, but I feel it was the right move. I think it was the right bet. Callum, your Saints were pretty poor. They pulled out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I couldn't really have expected that they would be as bad as they were. The Falcons were more impressive than I expected them to be as well, which is not something I think I'll say much this season. But credit to Mariota and especially Cordarrelle Patterson, who had a good game. I was happy that at the very least the Saints found a way to win, so I wasn't too embarrassed. But it was not enough, obviously, and. I feel like if we'd all gone perfect week 1, it would have set unreasonable expectations for the rest of the season. So happy to take the fall, despite my pain at doing so.
Yeah, we were doing the real work, just keeping things real and making sure, as you said, no one gets carried away. But Liam and Jack came out with some winners. They were on the full10yards.com betting site. So you can look there every week. We're going to get those up with 100 to 200 words explaining our picks. Liam came out with the winner on the Bucks. They destroyed the Cowboys. They were looked incredibly good on defense. And Jack, being a Dolphins fan, went for a Dolphin-related bet, and that one came out as a winner as well. So, decent start for some of us on the podcast. The big news of last week relating to betting is the Dak Prescott injury. He's obviously out for it says 6 to 8 weeks. Jero reckons it'll be 4 weeks, which I don't think anyone believes. He's refusing to put him on IR, but we'll see when he comes back. It has dropped their win total from 10.5 at the start of the season. They're down to 6.5 now. Some places there's heavy vig to the under, but it just shows quite how important Dak was to them. It's only the Falcons below them now who are on 4.5. There's a host of teams on 6.5, but yeah, it's not a good sign, and their line this week for the Bengals game moved about 10 points, which may be an overreaction, but we'll see what we think when we get to that game. So let's get on with best bets. We will start with Liam.
Yeah, so I've gone for another Bucks-related bet. So I've gone over 44 in the Bucks-Saints game. I think the Saints' offense looked a lot better than it did last year, obviously in week 1. I know obviously first half they were pretty poor, but second half they were really good. Michael Thomas, I know he didn't have the best stat line, but 2 great catches in the end zone. Olave got a 2-point conversion, and Landry looked really, really good. So I think the Saints will score more points than they did last year, and I'm just going to kind of hope that the Bucks don't capitulate on offense like they do against the Saints every game. It almost seems like since Tom Brady's been there. But yeah, I think between these two teams, we'll see a lot of points. And the Saints' rushing defense was terrible, and Lenny Fournette managed to knock off 100 plus against Dallas. So I think they can do it on the ground and in the air. And I'd like the Bucks to win as well, but I think I'll play it safe and go with the over 44.
Yeah, it's been the record Bucks v Saints. Tom Brady's lost all 4 of his games against them, I believe. So taking the Bucks to win is a little risky, despite the fact that on paper they should do. As you say, the Bucks are being seemingly more run heavy. There's a lot of injury news around that game as well. Regarding the wide receivers, obviously Chris Godwin's going to miss out, but we'll see how the rest go. I think most of them will play. I think it's just early week news. I don't know what I think about the total, to be honest. So good luck to you. Anyone else? Any opinion on that one?
Yeah, I like it. Kind of every reason that Liam said. So I agree completely. I do think both teams will score points, and the Buccaneers will not get stopped 4 times in the red zone and settle for field goals this week the way they did last week. I mean, there's an argument that week 1 is very much still preseason for a lot of these teams because they're shaking off the rust, especially if they didn't play in the preseason itself. And obviously Brady, we know, was away from camp. So I'd expect him to be sharper. I'd expect the Saints not to start quite as slowly. So yeah, I like it for sure.
Yeah, I like
Jack,
it too. It's actually one of the picks I was going to go for, but I just have a bad record for going for overs. So obviously I went for another Dolphins related bet. But yeah, no, I like it as well.
Well, talking of that then, what's your one for the week, Jack?
I couldn't unfortunately pick the Dolphins plus 3.5 or plus 4, so I've gone for under 45 points in the game. I thought the Ravens and the Dolphins offense were both poor enough in week 1. I don't know, like I want to keep believing in Tua, but every time I watch, he doesn't pass the eye test. Still believe in him, of course, but I don't know. I know last year I think it was 22-10. It was a Thursday night game. The Ravens and the Dolphins played against each other, and the Dolphins just kept blitzing Lamar, and he didn't really know what to do. I'd expect more or less the same thing again. I know Mike McDaniel said after the game that he's happy with the win, but he wants to establish the run. So I'd expect Chase Edmonds to get a lot of carries, and he got 12 in the last game, only for 25 yards. So I'd expect the Dolphins and the Ravens to both try and establish the run at the start, and obviously that means the clock keeps ticking. So I'm going to go for the unders in that one.
Callum, opinion on that one, being a Dolphins fan?
Yeah, I'm not quite as low on Tua's performance last weekend as Jack is, but I think he did just enough to give me some hope in the first half, especially. Second half was poor, but the second half was disappointing for the whole offense. And I mean, to be honest, it was a game that the defense was able to win for us that really helped us out. I don't hate the underpick. I mean, selfishly, as a person with a lot of Dolphins players and Ravens players on my fantasy teams, I'm going to hope that he's wrong. But I can absolutely understand the logic. I would expect to see Raheem Mostert get more carries this week. I know Mike McDaniel highlighted him as someone he wanted to get the ball more to as well. So yeah, with both teams having, or at least wanting to have, effective rushing attacks, that makes sense in terms of keeping the clock rolling.
Yeah, and I think we were talking before, the Dolphins defense looked incredibly good last week, so you would hope that they'd be able to slow down the run game of the Ravens. Looks like J.K. Dobbins might be back for it. He put in a full practice this week and then was downgraded to questionable, but they'll obviously be hoping he's back because their run game didn't look great against the Jets. Obviously, their passing game is limited and will struggle against a very good secondary. Liam, anything on this one?
Yeah, I like it. I think both teams have got really good defenses. The Ravens' defense is also very good. So I just think you're looking at two of the best units in the AFC on defense, and I think that'll probably make a difference. And like Jack said, they blitzed Lamar more than anyone last year, and they were doing kind of cover blitzes as well. So blitzing corners, blitzing safeties, and he didn't have a clue what to do last year. So if he hasn't developed that side of his game, then I think he could struggle. So as long as we don't see any defensive touchdowns, I think that this bet could hit.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Again, it was another total I had no idea on. I would like to think it could be 30 all, but I do think you guys are on the right side of this one. My one for this week, which got a few shouts of controversy in the build-up, was Raiders -5.5 hosting the Cardinals. This is a little bit of both sides. I think Devontae Adams looked at home immediately in the Raiders offense last week, and he's going up against a Cardinals defense that I do not rate at all. The Cardinals blitzed Mahomes a lot last week, which, in fairness, getting pressure on Derek Carr is the way to slow him down. But I do think that they may well drop off from that. And the Cardinals' offensive line is dismal. Kyler Murray was struggling behind it against a weaker pass rusher than this one. I think Max Crosby's going to get home all day. I think they're going to have too much pressure on the Cardinals. And frankly, I thought the Raiders looked fairly decent in defeat to the Chargers, and the Chargers' defense is far better than this one. So, yeah, I just think Raiders at home. The line has ticked up from, I think it was 1 or 2 in the summer. So they have had a lot of steam. So maybe I'm on the wrong side of things here. But, yeah, Raiders -5.5 against the Cardinals. Callum, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I was considering Cardinals +5.5 to be completely frank. I just think it's a lot of points for a team that, despite maybe some issues on the offensive line and despite looking, I guess, rusty would be the most accurate description against the Chiefs last week. I just think the Cardinals offensively, I think they're not going to be out of games and blown out too often is the way I look at our offense. I think they're good enough and explosive enough to keep them in games. Kyler and Hollywood Brown started to find a little bit of a rapport later on in the game last week. And just to be completely honest, I am a believer in the Cardinals generally. So 5.5 there was not something that I would have taken for the Raiders. I'm not a huge believer in Derek Carr. As good as Devontae Adams will make him look this year, and if the Cardinals can get the blitz with the pass rush that they have, then you do have to wonder if Carr will stand up to it. So it's not one that I would have chosen. But again, why are we taking my opinion seriously considering my abysmal showing last week? So
yeah, we were both on the loss last week, so maybe this is it's going to be a tie or something. We'll see. Obviously, we had one already. Liam, Jack, anyone?
Yeah, I had the same. I had 5.5 for Cardinals as an option, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just think I do struggle taking a quarterback who's a lot worse than the person getting the points. So I just think Kyler Murray's a lot better player than Carr. And if they blitz him like they did Mahomes, then I think he always notoriously struggles under pressure. And he threw 3 terrible interceptions last week. So I think I could see the same result. So yeah, I'm not with you on that one. And as a Chiefs fan, I also hope that doesn't happen because I want the Raiders just to keep those losses coming. That'd be ideal. But in terms of the game, one of my other best bets was Devontae Adams over 7.5 receptions. I think that's a lot. I think he had like 13 maybe last week. Either 13 or 10, I can't remember, but definitely over 7.5. His line was 6.5 last week. That went over, and yeah, 7.5 now. So I think that's a good bet in the game if someone's not on your side with the Raiders minus 5.5.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I probably won't touch it, but if I was to pick, I'd probably go Raiders minus 5.5. I know the Cardinals off season, just the whole Kyler Murray contract stuff and everything, like it's just bad vibes in the camp. And yeah, like I don't really rate either teams that highly, to be honest. But if I had to, I probably would go Raiders minus 5.5.
So you got some
half
support
a bit
there.
of support for me at least. Yeah, just a little bit. So yeah, it's not all bad. So yeah, that's our best bets for the week. I will try and get on with the main bets. Obviously, we have a huge game tonight. It is, I believe, Chiefs minus 6.5, total of 54. We just wanted to mention this one quickly. You're probably going to be listening to this after this game, but with Liam here, we felt we had to mention it. So Liam, take it away.
Well, I think Callum might have wanted to say something as well, though.
I just wondered if I was going to get a chance to do my best bet.
Oh, did we not? Oh, okay, no. Oh, well. Yeah, Callum might want to do his best bet. Yeah, Callum, what was it?
No, it's fine. I mean, I appreciate going 0 for 1 should basically mean that I don't get to do one this week. Yeah, that's fair. As you can now see on the screen if you're watching on the stream, I like the Lions -2 against the Commanders. Carson Wentz is nothing if but consistent in being inconsistent, and his roller coaster start in Washington last week was very weird. I couldn't believe it at the end when you looked at him and, he had over 30 fantasy points just from chucking the ball willy-nilly. No idea if it was going to his guys or someone else. And I really like what Dan Campbell and the Lions are building. I got laughed at by suggesting that the Lions might find a way to beat the Eagles in week 1. They weren't necessarily ever close to winning that game, but they were certainly shifty and got stuck in late on and were able to bring it close to the point where the Eagles didn't cover in the end. -2, I like it, to be honest. I think the Lions have talent in their skill position players, and if Jared Goff, similarly to Tua, if Jared Goff can just not mess up, I think the Lions can definitely win this game. So yeah, for me, I like the Lions over the Commanders here.
I know they love covering the spread, but this is the first time in 24 games that the Lions have been favoured for a game. So that was why I stayed away. I do like the Lions, and I did look at this game, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it with that stat. Like they cover as underdogs. I just worry whether they're going to finally get over the hump and get some wins together. Liam?
I don't know. It's tough to bet on a Wentz Goff game, isn't it? I actually thought he threw the ball quite well last week, and he's always had a good arm on him. And I think Dotson and Terry are very scary receivers to go against. So if I had to pick, I probably would go Lions -2, but I think I won't actually put my own money on this, and I'll sit back and watch it. But I like the over in the game. I think there could be a lot of points with these two quarterbacks, either pick sixes or touchdowns. We'll see.
And not very good defenses. Yeah, I agree on that. Jack, anything on this one?
No, I don't. I just can't back the Lions -2. I can't back the Lions unless they're plus at least 5. I'd be staying away from this one. Sorry.
What about Carson Wentz +2? Is that get you going or not?
Just maybe slightly more than Goff -2, but no, I'll be staying away from this game.
Yeah, over 48.5 would be my one in this game, I think. Yeah, I don't really rate either defense. So yeah, apparently there's a game tonight. I don't know whether anyone's mentioned it yet or not. Yeah, Chargers versus Chiefs is at Kansas City. The Chiefs are -6.5, and the total is 54. Liam.
Yeah, Sky Bet for anyone that does want to bet on the Chiefs. They've still got it. It was 4.5 actually about an hour ago, but it just ticked to 5 now. So they're quite not updated as well. So if you do want to bet, then stick away from sixes if you can find fives. But yeah, I'm biased. I'm going to say the Chiefs are going to win. I think Keenan Allen makes a difference. The minute he was out, the spread moved from 4 all the way to 6 in Vegas. So people deem him as a 2-point difference in the spread, which might be fair when you look at the rest of the receivers, I think, on display. But Chiefs are also missing their second best corner. So yeah, I'm not sure if the spread's worth it on either side, to be honest. If you like money line, then Chargers is obviously the value. But yeah, I think the Chiefs will win. And I've seen a lot of people in America now betting the under because it's managed to go up to, I think it got to 55 at one point yesterday. But I just can't touch an under with these two QBs. So I think bet in front, it'll be a stay away, and I'll probably put a Jody Fortson touchdown bet on. And my other suggestion for the week is Patrick Mahomes is still 2.5 passing TDs as a line, and it's still plus money if you bet it. So I'll keep doing that every week until he doesn't get 2.5 plus touchdowns.
Yeah, obviously a far better defense he's coming up against than last week, but with 5 last week, and if these keep going, if they're going to keep doing those shovel passes, then it's easy for him to notch them up. What did you get on Fortson in the end? I know we were looking at 7-1-ish.
Yeah, I got 7-1, and I paired him with Sanders, who was even as well because he hadn't scored a touchdown in 2 years. So I think I got something like £10 on. It was 180 quid back, I think. So yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, but they've already cut his odds. I think he's down to 4-1 on Sky this morning. Fortson was, so they've already kind of realised that. But maybe I'll find another random chief for Mahomes to throw a touchdown to.
Yes, apparently they're going lots of heavy tight end sets, so you've got the probably 3rd or 4th choice, and might be able to get some value on them eventually. Yeah, I quite like the unders on this one. I had to do a write up for somewhere, and I went for the under. But it could look really stupid. It could be 80, 90 points for all we know. It's one of those that it's a risk. It always feels like a risk. But yeah, I went for the unders. Jack, anything on this?
I think 54 is probably a bit high. One that I liked was both teams to score a touchdown in either half. I think it's 5-6 with Paddy Power. I think it's a decent enough bet. We've got 2 quarterbacks like Mahomes and Herbert. So yeah, I know it's something that you kind of need to lump on 5-6, but maybe you could throw it in something else like Dolphins +4 or something.
Had to get the Dolphins in there. Callum, what was your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I with those 2 quarterbacks, I would never do anything other than the over, to be completely honest. It's not that life's too short to bet the under, but I just can't be bothered to sit there and watch a game, which is I'm going to be cheering for 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league to not do anything. So yeah, 100%. I'd maybe lean Chargers with the points on the spread, but I do think the Chiefs win the game. So it's an interesting one. But yeah, I'm just really excited to watch. Hopefully, nothing but touchdowns all night.
Yeah, it should be a hell of a game. Next week's looking ahead. Next week's Thursday night is the complete opposite. It's Steelers versus Browns. So let's enjoy this one this week. So yeah, first up for Sunday night on the page I'm looking at is the Colts -3.5 at the Jaguars. The total is 44.5 there. The Colts have struggled against the Jags in recent years. Obviously, failed at the end of last season. And the Jags have actually covered the spread in 8 of the last 10 games against them. So I would be leaning to the Jags getting the points, but it seems very risky after the Colts didn't win last week, and they really should have done. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. I'll go in order this time to make it a bit easier. Callum, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think the Colts bounce back. They should have won that game against the Texans for very obvious reasons. But yeah, I would take the Colts honestly up to about a touchdown here, to be completely honest.
Liam?
Yeah, I don't think I'll bet the spread in this one. I don't mind Colts money line if people want to do one of those money line accumulators and pick 2 or 3. There's some good teams, to be honest, this week that you can either tease down or put in money line bets. But yeah, I don't think I'll bet the spread. But if I had to bet anything, I think Colts money line's a fair bet. I could just see them being up by 10, and then all of a sudden Jaguars scoring a garbage time TD, and then you lose it with the 4 points. So yeah, I'd say money line, but I'd stay away from the spread, I think.
And Jack, anything you got?
Yeah, after the last game of the season last year, seems to be some voodoo in Jacksonville for the Colts. Yeah, I won't be touching the Colts, and I can't pick the Jackson Jaguars either, so staying away.
No, that's fair. Colts are actually 1-2 on the money line, which seems fairly generous, as Liam said, if you want to put it in an acca. The Jets at the Browns is next up. The Jets are 6.5 point underdogs with a total of a horrible 39.5. Safe to say that people don't think there's going to be many points in this one. This is a firm stay away from me. I think the Browns should win. I don't think Flacco's going to do much with the Jets, and it's a low total, but still got to lean under. Callum?
Firmly on Browns -6.5, to be honest. Flacco looked awful against the Ravens. I don't think that's just because the Ravens are good. I think that's just because Flacco is that bad. I actually quite like what the Jets did in the offseason. I think they had a good one, but without Zach Wilson, this team is not really going anywhere. So, yeah, I just think the Browns will run the ball down their throat. Jacoby Brissett did just enough to win the game last weekend, and if he can, again, similarly to some situations we've already mentioned, if he can do just enough not to lose the Browns the game, then they should be able to win this one quite comfortably, I think.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I don't think I'll take the spread, but they're a good one to tease down. I think if you can, if you want to put them in something, you can. There's quite a few teasable games this week, so yeah, you can tease them down. 90% of the money is on the under, so I think the value there is probably to lean over, to be honest. But I won't actually be betting an over with a game with Joe Flacco involved. So let's hope for a tie or something, just to annoy Browns fans.
Yeah, I think the Browns will win the game, but after watching Brissett last year, I started to do 2 or 3 games to the Dolphins. I just don't think I can back -6.5. I think there was 1 or 2 games. I think it could have been the Ravens game. He was starting to begin. I think it could have been, and then Tua came in, and with Tua makes the offense look 10 times better. Brissett is not too much. So yeah, I think the Browns will win, but -6.5. I think I'll stay away from it.
Yeah, just a heavy dose of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb again, I think, and go from there. Next up, Patriots are favourites on the road. They're -1.5 at the Steelers. Total, another low one, 40.5. As Liam alluded to, there's some decent teaser legs around this week, and this is probably a decent one to stack up with the Browns. The Steelers' offense was putrid, but their defense was fantastic last week, so it's fairly obvious why this is a low total. Again, I would have to lean to the under, and I do think that the teaser leg is a nice pick there.
It's probably the only time all season that you'll hear me say I like an under, but I do like this under. Both offenses really uninspiring. If you were going to try and find some value, I actually quite like Steelers money line. It's just over evens. I've seen it at 2.1 in some places. I just think the Steelers would, especially if Najee Harris plays, that's kind of the X factor here. But the Steelers just have weapons that the Patriots don't have, especially offensively. If Harris is good to go, and then you look at the Steelers wide receiver core, they're just exponentially better than what the Patriots have. Freiermuth continues to develop and looks like he could be just as effective as Hunter Henry will be for the Patriots. So yeah, I really like the Steelers in this situation, getting the points and the under.
Yeah, going back to the teaser leg, I think this is a perfect one because you can go through 3 and obviously through 7. So, yeah, I like the Steelers in a teaser. I don't think I'll bet it otherwise. I think this is going to be a terrible game to watch if you're a fan of either of these 2 teams. But yeah, I think I'd probably tease the Steelers out. There's 95% of the money is on under in this game, so the whole world thinks this is going to go under. So if you like it, bet it now because it'll probably get lower by Sunday if everyone's betting it.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, and can't see any points in this game. Steelers, I think it's handicap's 2.5. I think it'll be really low scoring, and after watching Mac Jones on Sunday, I don't think I can back him. Yeah, 2.5. I'd probably just take the points. I think I might throw the under 40.5 points in maybe 2 or 3 trebles or something, because I really just can't see points in this game unless it's defensive or special teams.
So yeah, the lines I'm getting are from 888sport.com. So obviously, it seems like there's some difference around. I'll be honest, I've not checked for the best lines. I'm just going straight through there. I thought we'll keep it regular all season from the same book. So if you can get a 2.5, obviously it helps a little bit more. But yeah, 1.5 on this site. Then the well-supported Miami Dolphins at Baltimore Ravens. The Dolphins are getting 3.5, down a little from 4 early in the week, and the total is 44.5. We've already spoken about it a little bit at the start of the show. Yeah, the Dolphins. We will see how it goes with that one. I've just realised I didn't actually blank out these games. So yeah, so I'll skim over Bucks at Saints because obviously we talked about that. On to Panthers at Giants. The Panthers are getting 2.5 points on the road in New York with a total 43.5. I quite liked the Giants last week. I think Saquon Barkley looks back to near his pre-injury best. I do like a prop on this one, which I'll mention at the end, involving Saquon Barkley. I don't know whether I trust them to beat 2.5 points, but I think they will win the game. I'm still not a fan of Baker Mayfield. I don't think the Panthers looked particularly great last week. But this is two teams I don't particularly like, so I'll be avoiding it, but lean into the Giants.
I like the over. I think you said what you said right about Barkley is completely true. That he looked like he was a bit back to himself last week, and I actually think the Panthers kind of put it together second half against the Browns. Had a couple of impressive drives. Obviously, the home run ball to Robbie Anderson is a one-off, but I think the Panthers were actually really unlucky to lose to the Browns last week, and barring a kicker having a leg that has never been discovered before, they would have had the win there. And I think that would have been a great story, firstly for Baker and thoroughly deserved. But the Browns are a really good roster aside from their current starting quarterback. So, for the Panthers to hang in with them, I actually think the Panthers are a little bit better than people have given credit for. In terms of a side here, I would probably lean Panthers money line, but probably just because there's the value in it. I wouldn't love the 2.5 either way. But yeah, I like the over for sure here at 43.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like the over the best out of this one. I just think that there's two. The defense of the Giants is not great, and I think the Browns at least can be run on, which obviously Saquon looked really good last week. So yeah, I think I'll be betting the over. And because of my fantasy luck as well, people should probably bet Chubb to score a touchdown, because whichever one I put in my fantasy team that week seems to focus on it. Seems the other one scores a touchdown. So yeah, Chubb will probably rob home for the 2 TDs this week, I think, probably.
Hopefully. Jack, you're good?
Sorry, thanks.
Some issues.
Yeah, you can just...
We'll skim over Jack. We'll come back to him on that one. Obviously, we mentioned Commanders at the Lions earlier. We were split on that one. Let's put it that way. The Seahawks at the 49ers is the late game, the first late game. I believe it's the Sky game. I think we were saying there's some overlap probably on the coverage. The Seahawks are plus 8.5. The total is 41. So another teaser leg, really. It's low total, big spread. So yeah, it's a weird week for the bets this week. It looked normally week 2 is overreacting. It seems if anything is underreacting this week. Obviously, the Seahawks are top of the NFC West, being the only team to win last week. Whether they deserved it or not is debatable. They were massively outgained. The 49ers lost while outgaining the Bears. So I can see why it's kind of leveled out to this one. It was around this when it was in pre-season, and then we've had a week of football and it stayed at this line. I do still lean to the 49ers, but it's a big spread, so I probably will be avoiding this one. And yeah, it was a peak hour fever dream. It was 17, 16, 18, 19. It was 38 total points, 40 total points is what he wants. He wants no mistakes from his QB. He wants to run the ball. But yeah, I lean to the 49ers here.
No, I can't believe that this is the Sky game. That's disgusting. Picking this over Raiders Cardinals is baffling for me.
Yeah, it is the Sky game, I think.
Both of these teams are terrible. It was awful to watch both of them last week. I would take the Seahawks with the points because 8 is a crazy amount when Trey Lance and the 49ers just lost to the Bears, who are the worst team in the league. So there's no part of me that thinks... I'm not even sure the Niners will score 8 points at this rate. You know how bad they looked last week. I can't believe for the life of me that that's the line, and I also can't believe that Sky think this is a game worth watching. But yeah, I would lean under and definitely the Seahawks +8 on this one.
Yeah, I'd lean the same with the points. I've already teased them down because originally this opened up on Sky anyway at 9.5. So I've teased it down and paired it with the Bengals, who we'll probably talk about in a bit. But yeah, in terms of the money line stuff, it's probably no value in there. So yeah, take the Seahawks with the points. I'm a little bit higher on the 49ers than Callum. He's not a fan of Trey Lance. So yeah, but I just think the points are too many when that defense played quite well against the Broncos around the goal line and on third down. So
I think I'm back. I actually think the 49ers -8.5 is a great bet. It's typical week 2 overreaction. The weather in Chicago is terrible. I know Lance wasn't great, but it won't be like that in the 49ers. Yeah, Geno Smith, big emotional win against Russell Wilson. Public perception that he's good again. He's just not. 8.5 points, I think. Trey Lance, it's one of them games to bounce back from. I'm expecting the 49ers to win by double digits. So, yeah, it's one of my favorite bets is the 49ers -8.5, I think it is. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. As I say, I can't argue against that. That's the one I went for originally. So, yeah, it's definitely the way I'd lean. Next up is the Falcons at the Rams. It's a 10.5 point spread, obviously with the Rams as favourites, and totals 46.5. Another one that didn't really move. Well, I say didn't really move pre-season. I think it was 12-13. But after week 1, it didn't shift too much. I hate to do it, but I think I lean to the double-digit favourite. It's I think they're going to come back after 10 days off. They are going to lay a beat down on the Falcons. It won't be one that I bet, but that's the way I'm leaning. I just think that they're going to come out and curb stomp someone.
They looked really bad against the Bills. Really bad.
The offensive line looked terrible, but the Falcons don't really have a pass rush, so that's what I'm hoping.
That's a very fair point. And I mean, like I said, they looked really bad against the Bills, but I wonder if that's how good the Bills are rather than how bad they are. I'm still going to take the underdog. I'm absolutely going to take 10.5. I think the Falcons surprised a lot of people last week in how good they performed against the Saints. I don't think they will do that throughout the season. But in a game where Matt Stafford didn't look like himself, they don't. Darrell Henderson is not a good running back, and they don't want to use Cam Akers. So I'm just very unconvinced by this Rams team at the moment. If they can find a way to run the ball with Patterson again, Atlanta, and run the clock down, I can see them covering 10.5 for sure. So I would go with the Falcons here.
Yeah, I think this is the one of the overreaction games that we spoke about. So I'm going to go with the Rams. Falcons aren't very good, and the Rams are too good. I do think you can find 10 though in some places, so that's worth it because you can get a push rather than have that 10.5 hook. So if you can find that, I think that's probably a bit of a safer bet. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams all day against the Falcons.
Yeah, I agree. 10 points is easily coverable. The Rams were just embarrassed in the kickoff, and I expect a reaction. The Falcons, before the season started, were said to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and still fully believe there. So yeah, if I was to do anything, it'd probably be the Rams -10. Might tease them down, but yeah, I think I can see them covering double digits.
We'll see on that one. Yeah, it's Callum against the world. But yeah, as I say, it's not one that I don't like backing. I don't like backing double digits at all. So it's not one I'll be betting, but that is definitely the way I lean. Obviously, we talked about the Raiders and Cardinals earlier. I would prefer that as the Sky game. I think it would have been the Bengals against the Cowboys, but obviously with the Dak Prescott injury, here we are with the Bengals as -7.5/7, depending where you look, I believe. A low total of 41.5. I obviously think the Bengals are going to win this one, but the spread has moved 10 points since preseason when it was 2.5 points towards the Cowboys. So it is a big risk. Is the backup that much worse? I don't think so. I think there is some kind of change on the opinion of the Cowboys because they looked terrible even with Dak last week. So I think that the offensive weapons that they've lost have hurt them in the perception of the betting public. But yeah, the Bengals, I obviously watched a lot of the game last week. I don't remember too much of the game, but I do remember that the Bengals looked very good apart from the 5 turnovers. I don't think any team's ever won with 5 turnovers, and the Bengals probably should have done. So it shows how respectable they made it in the end. It's an avoid for me. Again, another decent teaser leg. I don't want to keep on going with long teasers because I think most people know about them now, but they are a value play, and this is a good leg for it. So, lean to the Bengals.
Yeah, this is probably one of the only ones that I'm a firm avoid on. Of all the chaos and the misery that happened for the Cowboys last week, I actually thought Ezekiel Elliott looked like he'd got a little bit of pop back. He was getting 7-8 yards on first down rushes fairly regularly against what we know is a very stout Buccaneers D line. So I can kind of see the Cowboys hanging in if they can get the run going. I think you'll see long drives for the Cowboys if they can stay on the field, and very quick 75-yard passes to Jamar Chase for touchdowns on the other side. So it's going to be a weird one. It's one of those where I just kind of lean to a very low over, if that makes sense. But I wouldn't really like to touch this one in all honesty. There's still too much unknown with Dallas right now.
Yeah, I'm same. I'd lean over slightly if I had to. Again, we won't talk about it too much, but definitely a big teaser leg. This is going to be one that a lot of people have, I think, in their accumulators and stuff if they're doing multiple teaser legs. But yeah, we'll see. If Joe Burrow doesn't turn the ball over, then you're pretty happy with that spread. But if he turns the ball over or Parsons does some sort of strip sack fumble and they can get a defensive touchdown, then your bet might be a little bit of a worry. So yeah, I'd stay away from the spread. But yeah, I like the Bengals a lot. Teaser.
Yeah, I see the Bengals absolutely smashing. I think Cooper Rush is obviously not a good quarterback, and then the Dallas crowd will get on his back, I think, from the start. I think I put the Bengals in a few bets, and I think they'll win very comfortably, especially after last weekend lose, and they'll want to bounce back.
Yeah, I was looking for Jamar Chase over on his longest reception because I do not rate Trayvon Diggs, and I think that they will take advantage of him nibbling, and Chase will hopefully get free. But I remember last week, I think it was 26 or 27.5. It was set very high, so it was one I avoided, but I'll be keeping a lookout for it. The other 9:25 game, the final one, is another big spread. Houston Texans +10 at Denver Broncos with a total of 45. Not much to say on this one either, really, to be honest. I think the Broncos obviously should have won last week. 2 red zone fumbles did not help their cause, but in the end, coaching deficiencies really hurt them. And until you can trust the coach, I don't think you can bet on a team, especially at 10 points.
Yeah, I can't really trust the Broncos at all. I quite like the Texans +10. Again, in an ideal world, obviously you get 10.5 if you could. But yeah, I thought the Texans were impressive last week against the Colts team that I think is definitely a playoff team. And so I was surprised that the Texans came out and played so strongly, but happy for them to do so. And yeah, Denver, they moved the ball fairly well, but I'm just really not convinced by them as an entire team, really. Their offense, none of their weapons really stand out to me as particularly elite. And so I wouldn't be taking Denver in any way here at 10. I'd definitely be leaning towards the Texans.
Yeah, same. I'd lean towards the Texans. I don't think I'll actually bet it, but you might end up teasing them out to like +17.5 or something ridiculous, knowing me. But yeah, I don't think I'd touch it at 10. As I said, you can't trust the coach for me. Russell Wilson as well. He's going to have 1 week where he's incredible, and then the next week where he's only got long bombs and he can't hit anything else. And it just depends which one you get. And I think the Texans D looked quite good last week. Obviously, there's that clip going around of Derek Stingley Jr. having that pass break up on 3rd down. That was amazing. And then Petrie played well as well. So I'd probably lean Texans, but I don't think it's one that I'll actually bet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of them games that Wilson's unbelievable. I think he might get 3 or 4 pass touchdowns. I see the Broncos getting 35, 40 points. So I'd lean towards them. Not really much confidence, but yeah, I probably would go with the Broncos.
Another nearly double-digit spread closes out the games. Sunday Night Football. I was thinking they were hiding this away from us, so we didn't have to watch it in the UK. But obviously, we now have a bank holiday on Monday, so there's more chance of people staying up for it. Is the Bears +9.5 at Green Bay Packers. yeah, I don't really know what to make of this one either, to be honest. Am I overreacting to the utter lack of offense from the Packers last week, or are they going to bounce back like they did after week 1 last year? Looks like Alan Lazard is probably trending towards playing. I know he's going to be closer than he was last week, so at least gives a weapon that Rodgers feels like he can rely on. Obviously, I'm hoping AJ Dillon gets 1 or 2 touchdowns to get towards that 6.5 line or was it 5.5? I can't even remember now. 5.5 or 6. Gets towards that 6 touchdown mark for me. He had 1 last week, so that's the one touchdown that the Packers got was for my guy on the ground. And in fact, he led on. I think he led on rushing yards and receiving yards last week, which is a good sign for the season for me. But yeah, I don't know whether I trust the Packers. I definitely don't trust them to cover 10, even though Aaron Rodgers completely owns the Bears.
To be honest with you, I like the Packers minus 25 in this. I mean, I just think the Bears are awful, which is, again, part of why I think last week's Bears-Niners game was so strange. I know the weather played a role, obviously, but the weather's there for both teams. You got to try and win that game. I'm firmly on the Packers bounce back train. I think they will continue to use both running backs. I think you'll see a lot of 2-back sets. I think Aaron Jones might even end up being wide receiver 1 on this team, to be completely honest, because he is really good at catching the ball out of the backfield. I just, don't think the Bears have anything to offer this game at all. I think maybe like 5 members of the Bears make the Packers 53-man roster, in all honesty. Probably none of their wide receivers, which is saying something considering the state of the Packers receiving core right now. So, I'm firmly on the Packers. Wouldn't want to, but would probably take it at minus 13.5.
Well, you might be able to get good value on an alt line. You never know. I'm with you. Minus 9.5. That's actually the best value you can get as well. It's 10 in a lot of places. So I think 9.5, if you want the Packers side of things, is the best bet. They got absolutely hammered last year in week 1. I know there's no Devontae Adams, but I expect them to come back in similar form. And maybe they're not going to score 35 points like they did last year in week 2, but I think they'll score enough to beat the Bears by 2 touchdowns. And I think maybe Aaron Jones might get involved a bit more in the passing downs because they just didn't involve him on that side of things. And if they're going to use AJ Dillon so much running the ball, then I think they need to use Aaron Jones when they pass the ball. So hopefully they can do that and they win comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. I'd back in the Packers in this one. I think if results went differently last week, just said Bears didn't beat 49ers in a freak game and Packers should have been more fight. This spread could have been up to 14-15. So I'm leaning towards doing the Packers this one. Not convinced Justin Fields at all. And Rodgers seems to be the type that if things are going good, they're going very good. And I expect him to start off well here. So I expect the Packers to cover.
Justin Fields, when Callum was saying he doesn't think they've got anything to offer this game, I don't know whether he meant the NFL as a whole or specifically this matchup, because it's tough to disagree with either there. Rodgers has beaten and covered the spread 7 games in a row against the Bears, we'll be looking to do that again. Monday night, we have a lovely doubleheader on Monday night, kicking off with the last big spread of the week, Tennessee Titans plus 10 at the Bills. Obviously, the Bills homecoming after their massive win last week. Total is 48.5. I'm actually leaning on the underdog this one. The Titans didn't look great last week, but Mike Vrabel seems to get them up for games against big teams. I think they beat the Bills last year. They beat the Rams without Derrick Henry. They won a number of big games last year. So for that reason, and pretty much that reason only, I'm going Titans plus 10.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did just want to say the doubleheader is really annoying because they're not actually like one after the other. They overlap. Yeah. It makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm annoyed in my normal American time zone that I can't just watch 2 games back to back. I like the Titans plus the points here as well. It's a weird situation to see a team that I think are as good as the Titans be a 10-point underdog. But that also says just how good the Bills are. So it's a risky one, but I can see them really leaning on Derrick Henry early. It just feels like after you lose a letdown game to the Giants, you have to be able to get up to go play the Bills in Buffalo. So, for me, I would definitely take plus 10.
Yeah, same. I'm on plus 10 as well. I like the over 48 as well. And that was the total. The average total anyway that most places have got is 48. So I lean over that as well. Hopefully you don't get any bad Buffalo weather because that can always impact those totals. But at the moment it looks fine. So I think over, go with the Titans. They think they've beaten the Bills the last 2 times they played them. I know it doesn't obviously matter 2 years in a row, but it just seems like Vrabel gets them up for the best games. It seems like Tannehill almost also plays better in big games than he does against teams that he should beat. So, yeah, I'm going to take the points as well, and probably watch this game and then not the other one, I imagine, on that night. Can't handle 2 back-to-back, I don't think, at that time.
Yeah, I think for me, it'll be watch the first quarter and a half of this one and then get on to the final game. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about this one. It's just.
I'm going to assume Jack's going for the big spread. He seems to have taken the big favourites in every game so far.
No, sorry. Sorry, the Titans. Yeah, I'd probably take Titans plus 10 against any other team this year, other than the Bills. They were unbelievable on kickoff, and to be honest, before the season started, I know they were favourites to win it outright, but I wasn't fully convinced because look, I know they're a good team and they made a few good acquisitions, but after beating the Rams like that, I know now why they're favourites. And I think when they seem to beat teams, they don't seem to beat them by 2 or 3. They seem to smash them. So yeah, like I don't think I'll be leaning towards either team in this game, and I'll be staying away.
Yeah, little chance of a backdoor cover, I guess, is the message on that one. Is when the Bills get ahead, they really stomp down and make sure they stay ahead. Final game of the weekend is the Vikings at the Eagles. These two, Vikings plus 2, total of 50.5. These two were the biggest movers in the Super Bowl market last week, with after wins in their first games, obviously against Vikings. Obviously stuffed the Packers, and the Eagles beat the Lions. Both looked impressive at times. The Eagles obviously let the Lions back in, but yeah, it's Kirk Cousins on a Monday Night Football, which is risky. He's 2-9 on Monday Night Footballs, although the last 2 wins, the 2 wins were the last 2 times he's played a Monday night, so maybe he's sorted that out. And obviously with the new coaching there, him and Justin Jefferson should be able to put up yards against anyone. And then the other side of the ball, AJ Brown had the most receiving yards on debut for the Eagles, 155 for him. No touchdowns, but he did get dragged down at the 4. Hopefully they'll be able to even out with Devonta Smith this week for my fantasy teams, because I was thinking I was getting value on Smith in the 6th, 7th round. So goose egg last week was a little painful. But yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to completely agree with you.
Oh yeah. So I don't. Again, it's a tough one for me to call. The Eagles have been the hype team of the summer. I have a fairly decent bet on Eagles winning the first 6 games. This was the risky one for me. It should be a very entertaining game. So for that reason, I'll probably lean over the 50.5 and probably lean to the Eagles at home.
Yeah, Eagles. It's not 1 p.m. It's not 3 p.m. on a Sunday. It's Kirk Cousins. Nice and easy. Take the Eagles. Be happy. Enjoy it. I like the over as well. But yeah, there's zero doubt in my mind whatsoever that this is a game Kirk Cousins can't win. So.
Yeah, as always, I'm on the opposite side. Vikings. I like them on the money line. I wouldn't bother with the 2. It's a sort of game that it wouldn't surprise me if someone wins by a tiny margin in this game. It could be all over the place with a coach like Sirianni as well. He likes to go for 2-point conversions. He likes to go for it on 4th down. So I have no idea what the final score is going to be. So I'll just go with the Vikings winning. The lines aren't out yet, but we'll see how much they've adjusted it. But Jefferson's over on receptions is a pretty good bet last week. I know his yards probably going to be really high wherever you look this week, but I think receptions, you'll still probably be able to get some value on that. So that's another good one. But yeah, I'm going to go Vikings. Kirk to keep the train rolling and win the NFC North, as he's going to do.
I agree. I think Vikings win the game. I think Kirk will be a lot better when his head coach actually likes him. I have the Vikings back to win the division as well, and I'm not fully convinced the Eagles at all. When Jalen Hurts, I think you get bet out by 2 in college. It says a lot. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards the Vikings in this one, and I'll be watching this game. I think this game is on Sky as well. Is it both on Sky or?
Yeah, both on Sky. Yeah.
Yeah, this would be definitely the game to watch. I think I'd lean towards the Vikings when I fully believe that they could get top 2 or top 3 seed in the NFC and might actually have a sneaky chance getting to the Super Bowl this year.
Ooh. Yeah, we believe that Sky Arena has one and Sky Main Event has the other one, so should be able to see both of them. And yeah, I think they were both They were both fancied outsiders for the Super Bowl, so we'll see what happens. It'll be a lot of big games for Mr. Cousins, so we'll see how he does. On to player props. I've got a few that I quite like. Anyone else got any first?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple earlier with Mahomes over 2.5. That's still at plus money. If he does it again this week, like he did last year, they'll take that prop away until he has a bad game and move it up to 3.5. So or put it at minus odds. So I like that one. I like Devontae Adams over the 7.5 receptions. And then there's quite a good one as well for Rashard Penny. His line for receiving yards is 7.5. I think he's gone over that in 4 of the last 7 times he's played. And I think it's against a team as well that I think he's going to have to check it down, Gino, at times. So I think Penny's a good one for over 7.5. And then the final one is McCole Hardman under 3.5 receptions tonight. I think that's another good bet. He's going to be involved a lot in the run game. And if he doesn't catch any long passes, then he's not going to get over 3.5 receptions. So I think that's a nice one tonight if people want to bet against the Chiefs player.
Yeah, and obviously, normally when you're trailing, there's a lot more short passes to running back, so it's probably, as you say, probably a decent one for Penny. I loved Rashard Penny last year, so we'll see how it goes. Callum, anything?
No, I'm struggling to find many props out over here yet. So, but no, I really like the sound of that Penny receiving yards one for sure. And again, I think there'll be so many points tonight that I agree with Liam on pretty much everything except Kirk Cousins. That's the truth.
And Tua.
Jack, any props from you?
Not really, to be honest. Maybe tonight, Josh Palmer, I think. With Keenan Allen now, I think this line is set at 45.5. It's pretty high, but it's a high scoring game. I can see him. You should be able to hit that, especially if the Chiefs lead towards the end. They'll be throwing a lot. That's how I see the game going. So probably just Palmer, really.
Yeah, his receptions are 3.5 as well. That's a good line.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
What's Austin Eckler receptions? That was the one I was about to look for.
4.5 I've got where I'm looking.
Yeah.
4.5.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take over on that one with Allen out. Could be a bit more slot work for Eckler, and he disappointed me last week with his non-score. I've got a few props. Brady under 276.5 passing yards. He's only gone over that once in his time with the Bucs against the Saints, and with the possible injuries at wide receiver for them, I think they're going to be more run heavy with Lenny Fournette there. Trey Lance over 38.5 rush yards. He ran for 54 in that waterlogged game last week, and without Elijah Mitchell there, they are probably going to be using Jeff Wilson, which is fine, and probably a bit more Deebo Samuel. And then my final one was Saquon Barkley, longest rush over 16.5 yards. He had a 68-yarder and I believe a few more last week. And Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both ran over 20 last week against the Panthers. So I'm fairly happy with that one. It's normally 14.5. It is a little bit inflated for him, but we've said before, he's very boom and bust. He'll have a load of 2-yarders and he'll break off a 70-yarder.
Nice. Yeah, I like that Saquon one a lot.
Agreed.
Cool. So with that, let's look forward to the Thursday night football. Look forward to hopefully a successful Sunday. As I say, we were 2-2 last week. Me and Callum will try and buck our ideas up and get us all into wins this week. So with that, we will leave you and let's hope we win some cash.